Hey guys, welcome to the Strength Solutions Podcast. If you're looking for a place to check us out, Apple and Spotify, you can rate and review us. Right now on YouTube, you can take a stop right there and subscribe. Then you have the like button. You can comment down below. Our website is strengthsolutionspodcast.com. We have free blogs, free guides. And if you want to email us future fitness questions, it's strengthsolutionspodcast@gmail.com. Social media, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, Strength Solutions Podcast. On Instagram, I'm Strength Solutions Edwin.
I'm Strength Solutions Nathaniel.
Okay, dude, we had this really good event.
Yeah, we had a big weekend, man.
Called FitBash.
Oh, yeah.
Hosted by Move Fit Live.
Move Fit Live.
And we were asking questions. Some people walked by and asked us a couple of questions. And there's a guy who went to the gym. His name is Daniel.
Hello,
and he
Daniel.
was talking about building muscle.
Uh-huh.
And you gave him advice.
Yeah.
But after you're done, I was like, you could have gone so many ways with it. And I think there's a lot of nuance to it, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, we were in the event, right? So we can't stand there for 25 minutes talking about stuff, but we can hear. So
yeah.
His question in general was like, as he's getting older, which by the way, he's not old.
Yes, he's still young.
He's like not even 30. So he was like, as I'm getting older, I find that sort of pushing myself all the time, I guess as he used to, because it also seemed like maybe he was telling me that he, for a long period of time, has been lifting very heavy. Mm-hmm. Like that's just kind of how he lifts. Mm-hmm. And he's finding as time goes on, he can't really push himself as much, or that he's ending up a little more, I don't want to say injured, but his recovery is maybe taking longer, things like that. And he's like, what do I do? Should I change what I'm doing? Should I just stop lifting heavy in general? Those types of things. So it was a good question.
Yeah. So some things I would look at, and I would have talked, this is where asking questions would help. First, I would ask, are you getting blood work? So like we work with Renew and Dawn and make sure our testosterone's on point. And maybe you just don't have the same testosterone that you had before. So your recovery is not as good. And
that would make sense too, right? As you get older and things like that. Like that's a pretty reasonable thing to think about. And I don't know if we did talk to him about it or somebody else. I can't remember. But we were saying the same thing, whereas like, we've had low T, you know what I mean? And it really does change. We were just talking earlier before the podcast about how, if we had worked out the same way that we did recently, we probably would have been dead. Yeah. Legit smash. Yeah. But we're lucky that we're kind of in a position where we can recover.
The other thing we didn't talk about too, and that segment is literally about protein. Are you taking protein enough? Or do you have creatine? What's your sleep like? Like those are things that we can talk about that has nothing to do with programming at all.
Right. Yeah. Because that's kind of the way that he was asking is like, what do I do about my programming? Right. But and in that we answered sort of that specific part of the question. But yeah, I mean, there's so many other things like maybe as time has gone on, your protein levels have decreased, maybe you just don't eat as much protein. Maybe you got off supplements, like you said, creatine, things like that. I just recently got some like yesterday. And so I'm starting all that stuff again. So I'm kind of excited to see kind of where that goes as well. But yeah, I mean, there's so much to it outside of just, oh, you lift 5 reps, lift 8,
Yeah, so I really want to go now into the programming. This is where I want to spend the bulk of our time. And you mentioned change your rep range to 5 to 10. And he mentioned the word hypertrophy, right? And you could get any hypertrophy anywhere from 1 rep up to about 30, I believe the studies show. And look, hypertrophy is just pushing yourself to a limit where you don't get too sore, but you can recover just enough and adapt and get better.
Right.
So it's a fine line and a fine game to play.
And it's going to be different for everybody.
Yeah. And there's not 1 rep range that's the best, right? Because or else powerlifters wouldn't be strong and big, right?
Yeah.
And they don't pass that rep range. Now, I've seen him work out.
Okay.
Right. And something that I would recommend is a program like Magnify. And the reason being, it's similar exercises to what you do right now, but it's novel enough in a different manner in the sense of using, first, let's talk about tempo. And you can slow down a rep, speed up a rep, and then you could build hypertrophy and strength that way as well. Then let's talk about maybe you're concentrating on too many exercises versus maybe doing 4 exercises, 5 exercises, getting a better warm up. Another way, because you don't work on mobility as often, it gives you different types of mobility tools, not just in the let's get in a 90-90, but let's get an overhead carry.
Yeah.
Let's go through a pull-up full range of motion. Let's go and do a suitcase carry and really stabilize the core a certain way. And that program is really good at doing those things.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the programs that we've been kind of recommending to a lot of people, because I think it's the one that is the most different than kind of what people do.
Maybe not most different, but similar to what they do, but a little bit different enough to help them with what they do already.
The intent is different,
Correct.
Right?
Yeah,
the intent of the program is a lot different. And so it's not as far off, because I'm trying to think of a program. I think it's called, was it Performance from Mind Pump? I think it's Performance.
That's similar to Magnifier?
No. Just
Strong?
So in Performance, I didn't like it because Performance was too different. Mm-hmm. It was too different from what I was normally used to, that I was like halfway through, I'd get super uninterested. Mm-hmm. And while maybe it was a good program, I'm not saying the programming was bad or anything, but it was just too off that I was like, I just don't really like find interest in doing this stuff. But like you're saying, ones like our Magnify or Strong that they have, it's like it's similar exercises, but the intent of what you're doing is completely different. And I also like the mobility parts of it, like you're saying, because I think oftentimes, like you said, we kind of think of mobility as just sitting, doing a stretch or something like that, right? When it's so dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the mobility side of the Magnified program is what a person kind of said was like the secret sauce to us, because they're like, I wasn't doing them at the beginning.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden I started doing them, and it helped me with those foundational days, like your deadlift, your squat, and all those movements. And they became better and stronger that way.
And it's funny too, because when I started doing programming, like the way that you do it too, with like those kind of in between days, our amp sessions or the mobility days or whatever, similar thing, man. It was when I first started doing programs, I was like, that looks stupid. I don't need to do that, and I ran the whole program and I got pretty good results. And then I remember running it again and I was like, I'm just going to do it the way the program says. And I'm going to add in these extra days. And dude, that was when like progress actually happened. So it really is like that secret sauce that changes the whole program.
Yeah. Because Magnify gives you different exercise choices. So it's a novel stimulus, different tempos for you. It's a novel stimulus, and maybe a different range of motion of what you're doing, because now that's going to be a novel stimulus. Let's say I can only squat to 90, but now I can squat like 3/4 of the way down, or maybe I'm all the way down to the ground. Well, just if you did the same weight, you're going from 90 degrees all the way down to the bottom. Now you have to activate more tissue throughout the squat to help facilitate growth in different areas of your body.
Right.
So you can change things program wise that'll help facilitate that hypertrophy and strengthen the joints
without even changing so much the exercises.
Yeah. All right. So we went to the gym this weekend, and it was pump time. Getting crazy.
Dude, it was a cool experience, man. So Edwin and I went over to Heavy Metal Fitness, a strongman powerlifting gym here in San Antonio that apparently like houses some of the best athletes here, I guess, dude, everybody that walked through the door, we were with Austin Andrade, right? We were with him, and he was just like, that guy has that championship and this dude can do this much weight, and I was just like, what the hell, man? Like, I'd never been in a place
where you're not top stronger guy.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because later on in the day, and we'll get a lot into it, but later on in the day, I was thinking about like the gym that I go to, which is just Crunch, right? And I was like, man, not that it's not a gym or anything like that, but I was like, it's so different. You know what I mean? The workout that I'm going to get at Crunch is going to be so different than the workout that I'm going to get at a place like Heavy Metal, or even just the equipment that's available.
Well, yeah, the equipment, but let's talk. I think the big thing to me, I noticed, was my focus.
Yeah.
Because everybody's so focused and so in the zone and even supportive. Like when I was going after the deadlift,
dude,
right? And this random guy was, hey, go, like in the back, and you could see me just shaking. I was like, I gotta beat Nathaniel. I gotta beat him. I was shaking for that last one, and I was holding it up forever. I was like, I gotta get this last rep.
I gotta lock it all the way out. Yeah, dude, and you're right. I think the the focus is so important, because you had said it, I think, at some point where you said everybody here just seems like they're trying to get better. Mm-hmm. You know, everybody there was working on something. You know what I mean? Like that girl kind of pulled Austin aside to see if she was doing her chain press, you know, her overhead press. Well, you know, like everybody was working on something. It was all with intent. Nobody was just like hanging around doing whatever.
It wasn't aesthetic driven.
There was no, you know, and even if there was like a tripod with whatever, I'm sure they were using it to like look at their squat or send it to their trainer or whatever it was, you know, like it wasn't, there was even I don't know if you saw it, but whenever we went over to where the cable machines were and the kettlebells, there was like a little sticker on the mirror that said, "Fuck your selfie." Cause it's just one of those places, you know what I mean? It's like, hey, if you're here, like fucking work, you know, and just get your shit done. And that's what we're doing. And so it was a really cool environment, man. I love that gym. Working with Austin was fucking insane, dude.
You know, doing the warm up for the deadlift before we get that warm up was a workout in itself,
dude. That's some people's.
But I also wonder if he gave us one of the harder warm ups, because I did see a guy who he said was his client, and that warm up didn't look as nearly as hard as our warm up. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So, well, he did say, he was like, I guess he had created a program beforehand, and he was like, this isn't good enough. And he was like, I'm going to make sure that these guys get like the real heavy metal experience, you know, like I would be doing them a disservice if I didn't put them through the ringer, you know? So, I mean, dude, he really put us through that shit. He had us going for like 4 rounds on the warm up, and he took one out because he was like, yeah, y'all are going to die.
Dude, we were sweating bad.
Like, I know we could have done the next one, but like, dude, I was already like, holy shit, dude. Like, it's kind of in your mind. It's so funny because I'm thinking to myself, like, how the hell am I supposed to do more workout from this, you know? But once we got into the machine, once he started explaining things to us and we started our you know, main lift of the day, which was the deadlift, like it felt good. You know, I
want to talk about that machine. It's the ATP by Westside Barbell. And what I really liked is the amount of volume we did.
Yeah.
Would have tore me up.
Dude, I would have been fucked.
I was able to practice. We probably got around 50 to 60 deadlift reps without our body being torn up.
Yeah. Like my lower back felt absolutely nothing, dude. At no point.
Isn't it really? It's crazy.
I never felt anything on my lower back. It was all in my glutes and hamstrings, like, and core, right? Like all of it was just set up through there. I'm trying to think of a way to explain it to y'all, but like imagine a belt squat machine, right? But at the same time you're doing the belt squat, you're fucking doing a deadlift.
Yep. You're hinging with it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's really loading the posterior chain, but in a way that you don't have to place all of the weight on the barbell itself. So we were still able to load, you know, I think we ended up at 205 pounds, right? At the max when we started like the actual deadlifting, you know, after we had done a million things beforehand. We were already there for 2 hours. You know, we were able to put 205, but on the bar, it's only 135, right? So my grip isn't in the way, right? I'm not having to really focus on keeping all that in my lower back and making sure that I'm not screwing up because I got 205 in front of me. It's just all loaded in that posterior chain. And the thing I liked about it too, is that it really kept you in position.
Because you couldn't shift.
You couldn't shift at all. You couldn't move your feet barely. You know what I mean? Once you're in position, you were just like, I'm here now, and that's it. And so there was no going forward, no going back. I mean, you could tilt, right? Because he was having us kind of shift and change and things like that. But it was so like, you're just locked in, man.
I loved it.
It was
game changing.
The best machine I've ever used in my life. Yeah. Dude, like easy.
I want to play with a couple more machines next time we go.
Yeah. They had a bunch of stuff there.
But, you know, he coached us on our deadlift. We had exact opposite issues.
Isn't that funny too? Yeah. And we were just talking about that too, like with the yoke and stuff like that. And where we were sore, right? On our hamstrings. Because for me, I was too over the bar, right? I kind of go really, really hinged. And even Austin said it himself. He was like, you kind of almost do like a straight leg deadlift, you know, like almost more stiff legged into it. And he had me kind of or like drop my hips down a little bit more and come more upright in the chest and drive more with the quads and things like that to get more power, you know, more power out of my movement and stuff like that. Whereas yours, I guess you weren't over enough, right?
No, for me, my setup was good. It was more, as soon as I got my knee over top, I need to bring my chest up towards the sky. and he wanted me to power through to lock out better.
One of the things
and it led me to lock out better. It looked way different, right?
Dude, it was crazy.
Yours too.
I was watching the videos later on that night, and I was like, man, it's fucking insane, like how different it is. And one of the main things I noticed too, I think I had maybe said it to you when we were leaving, or maybe when I was on the phone with my brother, but he was so...
We're the same guys.
Yeah, pretty much. I was talking to you no matter what. His focus on like head positioning and where your eyes are. It's like, those are things that we know, you know what I mean? But it was so different when he was like, if you're looking down in your deadlift, right? Like you're just going to go over, you know, you're fighting it the whole time. You know, I'm over the bar, my eyes are looking down. Everything is like going inefficient, right? Like I'm totally fighting against the movement itself. And when you pulled up, he even said it for you. He was like, dude, it's all about your chin position. Like once you look up, it's just like boom, like straight up to the top. Yeah. And it's so weird because he was like, once you pass your knees, you need to be up, you know, like going up for it. And it's crazy how much that just gave you power.
Oh, so you watched it all?
Dude, it's watching it in yours, watching it in mine too. It's like, at the beginning, we're like, it's so funny because,
dude, I wonder what part of the reason I'm glad we went too is part of my goal is before I'm 40 is to get to 400 deadlift again.
Okay, dude, you can do it easy, man.
Dude, because I've done over 400 before, but that was in my 20s.
Yeah,
I just haven't been deadlifting lately, but that like re-energized me and
I'm glad, dude. And it's funny because I knew it would, because I know that for a while. Because you even said it there. You were like, man, I haven't really been like doing shit like this. Okay. But also, just from my end, like just watching you perform and stuff like that, like, dude, I was impressed because I was like, man, he really hasn't been doing this for a while now. Like, I mean, how long would you say it's been? I
deadlifted on Friday to prep a little bit, right? I literally did like 135, 185. Yeah. Went up to 225. But I was like,
that's good. Yeah.
I'm like, this feels weird because I haven't done it forever. It's a skill set, right? Yeah. And dude, we got there and like that first one felt off. And then I was like, oh shit. Once I popped the head up, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then I beat Nathaniel.
I'm back.
That's all that matters.
Yeah. So the way that he had us do the setup is that, so every 2 minutes you did a set, right? And as time went on, you added another rep to the set.
Yeah.
Easiest way I can kind of explain it. So we started out with 205. The first set is 5 reps. If you get it done in 30 seconds, perfect, because now you have the rest of that 2 minutes to rest for the next set, right? And we just kept going. So it was 5 reps, 6 reps, 7 reps, 8 reps. I made it to 8, and then I had that 9 rep run coming around, and I was like, already in my head, I was like, dude, this shit is gonna be ass. And so I was going through it.
I could have kept going, bro.
Dude, I felt like you could have, man. I felt like you could have done at the very least that 9 set. Yeah. I feel like you could have done it. Yeah. But man, yeah, as soon as I got to like rep number 4, like you're fucking shaking. And I had never really been like pushed to that level either. You know, like I lift hard and I try and stuff like that. But dude, when you got fucking him yelling at you and being like, do another one, you know, you're like, oh my God, dude. Like,
I gotta do this.
I gotta do one more.
Or I'm going to get beat up.
And so, dude, it was awesome, man. Like just, I don't know, the feeling, like you said, kind of the rush, you know, like I could see you doing that every once in a while and just like really trying to go for it.
If Nick was there, I would have been like, I'm not a victim.
I can do it.
Yeah. So we did that and we did a lot of volume, like straight volume.
Just so much.
We probably took us about an hour and a half, like actual work time.
Yeah. Because at the end of it, just in the actual work portion of it, I think I had done 32 reps and you'd done 33, but we had done sets beforehand, you know, working up to it and getting used to the machine. So like you said, by the end, like 50 or 60 reps, you know?
And then we did the walk.
With the yoke?
Yeah. So mine was 460 I did.
You got to 460 and I was able to move 410. Yeah. Because man, dude, and that too. So it was like, picking up the yoke on its own. Me too, man. I was like, fuck, I wish I could just like go back and use it again. Like in my head, I'm like, I gotta get the fucking 460. But picking up the yoke on its own, which I believe he said it was 185 pounds.
Correct.
I mean, again, I know me and you've worked out for a long time and stuff like that, but like, I was like, I feel like I could run with this shit. You know, like it's not super crazy. And it wasn't even like really uncomfortable or anything. You know, there's just a lot of things that I guess you go in thinking it's going to feel like, but then you're under it and you're like, it's not too bad. And so he had us kind of go back and forth for a little while. And then afterwards, I got to sneeze.
Choo-choo-choo-choo. Oh, guys, I'm sorry. So unprofessional by this guy.
Afterwards, he was like, all right, you guys got it? And we were like, yeah. And he was like, all right, now put a 45 on each side. And we were like, fuck.
And of course, I finished last on the deadlift portion. And then I got to do this first.
So that had brought up the total weight to 360, right? At 360, what did it feel like for you?
I didn't think it was bad at 360.
Yeah. I was, again, surprised at how well you like moved it. Just like taking it down. You look strong. You look stable. Like you were able
I missed my prime of strongman. I should have been a strongman the whole time.
You should have been, bro. You should have been, man. Yeah. But yeah, so you moved it pretty well. And then when I got underneath too, it was that initial like picking it up that I was like, oh, fuck. Like this shit's like stuck on the ground, bro. Like you got to drive it. And then from there, walking it down, again, it wasn't super crazy. I mostly felt instability like in my knees. I don't know if you felt that at all. No. Like as my steps kind of went on, it was like, I was like, oh, this is like wiggly, like really hard. But I think as we went again, so then he was like, all right, so you can either put a 45.
No, he said he could put 25 on caddy corners.
No, it was 45 caddy corners or 25s all around.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And then so we were like, fuck it, let's just go 25s all around. Yeah. So they made it 460, right? Mm-hmm. Again, bro, super impressed with you, man. Like you picked that shit up and you just walked it, dude. Like you just took it down. How did that feel? Did that feel like anything?
So for me, the part I noticed is like when I didn't brace, and this is what I really like about the yoke walk is you have to brace.
Dude, you have to. Or else it won't move.
Or your back just takes a load and hurts.
Yeah.
And so like I let go a little bit and then I don't know, when you saw when I stopped, that's when I had to re-brace myself and then I kept on walking. And dude, it would be such a great tool for the average individual to try it. Maybe there needs to be like a lighter yoke machine.
Yeah.
But because then you have to brace while walking and it's easier to get on your back and just walk that than it is.
And the thing too is that you don't have to hold it like a barbell. Like, you know, he was even saying that he gets super low, right? Because he just doesn't have the shoulder mobility and just kind of pushes it forward and goes from there.
I should have gone like this. You mad about my shoulder mobility?
But yeah, so whenever I got into that, like, dude, I was like, I can't even pick this shit up. Like, this is fucking insane.
I should have done a windmill for
with the yoke. And then trying to move it too. It's so crazy. Like, I was like, how the fuck do you even take a step with this thing? But it also made me realize that I was like, you know, because I think I had told you recently, I was like, you know, my lower back's been feeling weird when I do my deadlifts or my squats, like, et cetera, whatever. I was like, man, I really need to get back into just learning to brace hard and for a long time. You know, like, because that was what it was. It wasn't even then, it wasn't even like my legs. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I can't move. Like, it's too heavy for my legs. It was that my back felt like a fucking noodle, dude. Like, I was just like I couldn't stabilize it, you know? And until you can do that, then it's not going to go anymore.
It was cool. I loved it.
Very cool, man. Yeah.
But this leads me to like a concept, and I've been hearing this word a lot from everybody. Like, this is the most functional thing to do, right? And so that stuff's very functional, what we do.
Yeah.
But you know what? Running is functional.
Yeah.
Hiking's functional. And I think we abuse this word in fitness a lot of times. And the reason I want to bring that up is because I've heard someone like in the gym earlier this week, like, this is so functional. I was like, well, what I did was functional over there. And then when I run, it's functional. And we need to quit abusing this word.
I think we got to put it in context.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. Like there's a nuance to it, right?
It just depends on
what's your end product and your end goal.
What's your functional, right? Yeah. If I'm a runner, okay, then running is probably going to be the quote unquote most functional thing for me to do, you know?
Yeah. So it's funny, dude. So everybody has their own perspective and view of things. And you'll tell them, hey, you know, Austin, our friend, you know, he lifted over 1,000 pounds. And they're like, why would you ever want to do that?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's his goal. That's his thing. Like, why does that matter to you? Just be
right.
Why can't you just be like happy that he did that? That's awesome.
It's funny. Yeah. Cause even when we talked to Nick, he was like, I even had that sort of stigma of like meathead type dude. Cause he ran a lot, you know? And I don't know if you saw in the video, like he had sent the pictures of himself when he was younger. And I was like, dude, what the fuck? Like, that's not you, bro. Like, you're fucking around, man. It's insane. But it's funny because it's like, again, it's like, why does that even matter? You know, if those dudes want to go and fucking do that, then that's their goal. You know, they have some reason for doing it.
So that leads me to think about like fitness, and when you're going into a trainer or whoever you're going into, go in it for yourself, not because somebody said you need to be 10% body fat, not because somebody said you have to be this strong. Like, I hate when people make up, well, if you don't bench 300, squat 400 and deadlift 5, then you're not doing it right. Like, no, like your goals and everything comes up to you. It's all individual. No one's going to give you the answers to.
Yeah.
That's what somebody else, like this goal of 400 deadlift before I'm 40. is only because I've been reinvigorated. I felt so awesome. And it's just a good goal to have for me. It means nothing, but it's a good goal to just get strong on my deadlift.
It's a like, in no way.
I forgot to say earlier, I didn't switch my grip like Nathaniel did. My hand stayed over top.
Yeah. Like in a good way, it's like an arbitrary goal, right? It's just something that you decided you wanted to do. Yeah. And if that motivates you to get strong and do whatever you need to do, then that's fine. You know what I mean?
And they'll be like, well, 400 is dangerous. I'm like, no, if you do it properly. And that's what we talked to Austin about. Like the guy literally cares about your setup, the way you extend. If you look too fatigued, because I know he wanted me to stop, like as a coach, but I didn't let him tell me to stop. Because at 6, he was like, oh, you're pretty good. I was like, no, I'm going to get one more. Right.
And it's funny too, because I noticed we were doing something, I forgot it was. Well, we were doing the ATP, but at some point he was like, if it's too much, like there's no point in doing it. You know, like if we got to take the weight down, then that's what we're doing. You know, that's, dude. And that's from, you know, the guy that you would think would be like, no, don't be a bitch, you know, like put the fucking weight on, you know what I mean? But it's like, he is at his core, a good coach, a great coach, a good athlete, knows what the fuck he's doing, you know? And it's just like, at the end of the day, maybe 400 is dangerous for that guy who's saying it's dangerous. Yeah. Right. But for you, it's a totally different story. It's a totally different thing.
It's like me talking about finances and being like, oh, you should put your money here or there. Well, like, you know nothing about my life and my end goals versus let me go to this financial advisor who knows exactly what I want and coach me along the process. That's the big difference. And so going into this internet realm is very dangerous for people, especially when there's a lot of nuance in everything you're doing. So I do want to talk about leg strength. And building, I wish I would have known about this machine and building my baby's leg strength. Dude, that was a cool ass machine.
It's so cool, right? So it was just like, so like the baby kind of lays on their back, right? It's a circle, a wheel, I guess, so to speak, right? And so the baby's on something that kind of like pivots around the wheel and like a little carriage type thing. And on top of them is like a spoked, you know, pole. And so it has like a centerpiece and then spokes coming out of the end of it. And what the baby does is they put their feet on it and just kind of like push themselves around. So they're just kind of going like whew, around the circle. And I was like, dude, that's so cool because it's entertaining for the baby. I'm sure it's fun. They're building leg strength, right? Because having their push, their body weight essentially, you know, around the thing. So cool, man. So cool.
Yeah. Okay. Before we go into studies, I want to talk about something serious and how we need to look at other people's perspectives and things. So I heard this story on this podcast and this guy was talking about when he was 17, he was young, he was driving and he was at a yield. And at the yield, he ends up hitting another car.
Oh man.
And someone in the ambulance said, hey, you broke that lady's back. She's never going to walk again. So he kept this guilt his whole life. Right? Yeah. And he goes to college, graduates college. He's in his like mid 20s. And he's like, I got to look up this lady because of this guilt.
Oh, wow.
And he goes and he knocks on the door.
What?
And he's like, first thing she opens it. He's like, I'm so sorry. And he starts bawling out like crazy. Like, I'm so sorry. She's like, it's okay. You could sit down on my couch. And he's like, it's my fault. The wreck was all my fault. And then he stopped crying and he realized she was actually walking.
Wow.
So this whole time he's created a story that she hasn't been walking in his head
for years
because of this person. And not even going back to knowing her. But then she was like, honey, you know that wreck was my fault. And he's like, what do you mean? So in her story was because she was a habitual eater and she stopped at a fast food restaurant and she was grabbing food. She ran into him because she was grabbing food and looking down. And it actually, she did have like issues with her spine, but then she ended up stopped like eating out and taking care of her health.
Wow.
And she actually was real fit and healthy.
Dude,
and
so like changed her life.
So it changed her life, right? So this whole point is we got to realize we create all these stories and learn to take ourselves out of the story, you know? And I think too many times either politically or our own selfishness, we create these stories based off of ourselves versus your understanding different perspectives. You know, I could come up with like 20 different stories, but I don't know what the true story is of a certain thing, right? So let's just say Amanda gets mad at me. She's mad at me because I didn't take out the trash. She's mad at me because I didn't do the dishes, or she doesn't think I'm financially capable, or I could go down the list, right? And we could create these stories until we figure out the truth.
Yeah.
The hard part is about figuring out the truth and figuring out everything. And I just thought I'd share that story before we go into 3 different studies, because a lot of people right now out there creating these stories in their head, or this person doesn't like me, or, we read it on Reddit all the time. Am I the asshole for this? Am I the asshole for that? I'm right. I'm wrong, or am I wrong? It's just stop creating stories and start finding a way to develop the truth.
Yeah.
And I'll probably share with you off camera, but like this concept politically. But yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. So there's 3 different studies. The first one we'll go over real quick. It's about women who have kids after the age of 33, double their chance of living past 95.
Isn't that interesting?
So this is why I don't like studies. There's a lot of variabilities here. So if some woman after 33 has a baby, I don't think it has to do anything with that in particularly.
Okay.
Typically, there's other things involved, right? So typically that person is probably taking care of their health because they're more educated. Maybe they lived in a different zip code, most likely. They also waited later because they met their partner later because they were educating themselves, getting themselves better. So therefore, there may be someone who's more a growth mindset kind of person, which allows like not this fixed mindset, which can lead to better situations. Also, because you don't have a kid at a younger age, maybe you can decipher your friend group a little bit better and have better social friend groups. So there's a lot of like different things.
That's a lot.
Besides just the baby at 33. Right?
And just the age. Right. Interesting.
It's just a lot more opportunity for other things.
Yeah. You've lived like so much more of your life, as opposed, and it's like just talking about stress in general of that.
Well, now you're financially stable. So when you have kids, there's a lot less stress.
Like I can, I think about it all the time. I'm like, man, what if I didn't have a kid when I was fucking 19? You know what I mean? Like my life would probably be completely different. I'd probably be in a completely different place. My kid's life would be totally different, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah. All right. The next study is reducing daily sitting may prevent back pain. A new study showed that reducing daily sitting prevented back pain from worsening over 6 months. The result strengthens the current understanding of the link between activity and back pain, as well as mechanisms related to back pain.
I mean, this one makes sense. I was just talking to one of my clients today who had some issues, things happen, and he hasn't been able to be as active as he was a few years ago. And so he works at home and he sits most of the day and things like that. And he was talking about his posture has changed, etc. Luckily, no back pain, very dormant glutes though. So trying to get that working again. But overall, I was telling him, I was like, something that I tell my clients who have to sit all day is that for every hour that they sit, at least 10 minutes, they want to come to like the end of their chair, sit up in the best posture that they possibly can. If they can do better than that, maybe standing, going for a walk, something like that. Because man, I mean, humans just were not made to sit. Yeah.
And even in the study, they say walking is better than standing.
Yeah.
They saw participants who walked, and that's because of glute activation, core activation that you get.
You get so much more.
Yeah. All right. Study number 2 is out of Barcelona. To keep weight in check, it is not only important to consider what we eat, but at what times we eat. According to a new study, there are 2 specific habits that are associated with lower body mass index, and in the long term, keeping longer overnight fast and eating breakfast early. So I don't really think it comes down to because of those things. I just think because you're eating earlier in the dinner time, you're less likely to make bad choices.
Yeah.
And it's nothing special about the fast. And then eating a high protein breakfast allows you to feel fuller throughout the day. So you're less likely to eat something that's a poor choice as well.
It comes down to like habits, right? It's not about the time of day or, eating at night doesn't mean that there's more calories in the food than if it was at 1 p.m., but it's about the habits that you develop. And I also think kind of waking up early, having a good breakfast, things like that sets you up mindset wise for the rest of the day to make even better choices.
Yeah. And then eating too late actually disrupts your sleep, which if it's disrupted, then it'll disrupt your next day.
Yep.
So it's like everything leads to each other, right? Guys, if you like what we're doing, please share, like, subscribe. We're on Apple and Spotify. You can rate, review us. We're on YouTube. Please leave a comment down below. Also, like and subscribe us. If you're looking for our website, it's stringssolutionspodcast.com. Free blogs, free guides, and programs for purchase. Emails, stringssolutionspodcast@gmail.com. That's where you can email us future fitness questions. Social media is Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram is String Solutions Podcast. I'm String Solutions Edwin.
I'm String Solutions Nathaniel.
All right, question number 1. Are there certain exercises that are bad for you?
This kind of goes back to what we were talking to at the beginning. It depends on the person, right? It depends. I mean, there might be exercises that are quote unquote bad for me that are good for you.
I mean, a good morning is a perfect example, right?
Yeah.
I think somebody asked you a question.
We did talk about that. Yeah.
And it's just, it really depends. What do you have control of? What is the low tolerance? There's so many factors that go into, can exercise be good for you or bad for you? Also, you know, I've had clients who do less weight on their own, who are just not focused in that moment, but they're focused with me. And that's why they get injured. And so the amount of focus you have during the exercise can play a role in everything you do. It's not that this exercise is bad versus this exercise is good. I mean, I literally have a little bit older of a gentleman and literally 2 days of training and already feels better.
Yeah. I mean, taking that, the lady's question that asked us about the good morning, she was kind of asking if, or I think she said that she heard that good morning is not good for building glutes or something like that. I forgot what her question was specifically. But it's like, let's say that you can't deadlift because, I don't know, whatever, you have back problems or something like that, but a glute bridge isn't enough. Okay, well then the good morning, if you can do that for whatever reason, then it probably is a good way to build your glutes, right? Now, if it's someone else who can't,
I know you're giving an example.
I'm giving an example, right? I'm just giving.
You're throwing out random exercises.
I'm just saying whatever, right? Where it's like, I could take that one exercise and put it into a million different aspects and say, it's bad in this case, it's good in this case, it's maybe okay here, it's maybe not bad. And so there's no bad exercises, right?
It's goal, stimulus, response goal.
Even when we see people like fucking Joel Steedman, you know, doing his shit, like some of it is like, yeah, you know, it makes sense. For me, would it be stupid to do? Yeah, probably.
But there's some that are stupid that he does.
There are some that are stupid.
We talked about that a little bit last time where there was a trainer who's like, look, you do a lot of good work, but you show the shittiest stuff.
The only thing that I would say is a bad exercise is something that's set up in a way that could 100% injure you.
Kind of like the squat with the roller thing.
With the roller thing, like, come on, man. There's that's ridiculous.
Risk versus reward.
Right, yeah. Unless I'm a fucking, I don't know, roller skater.
Dude, imagine one wheel breaks.
Done. Yeah, and there's just no point to it. So if there's an exercise like that you're saying, yes. But if we're just talking about like general most things, like it just depends on the context.
All right, question number 2. Is doing mobility exercises really important? Does it really prevent pain?
I mean,
it'll help because you're strengthening the joints. But also there's a difference between mobility and flexibility. Mobility is the ability to control load under a range of motion. Flexibility is just getting into a range of motion. Yeah.
In that context, I would say like, yes, it would help with pain, right? Because if I have pain going through a squat, you know, with my knees at the bottom position, okay, well, working through mobility, getting my ankle dorsiflexion better, you know, whatever it is that is my issue, and then it relieves that pain, then yes, right? Because mobility at the end of the day is controlling the range of motion, right? Controlling it, being in control, having activity through the muscles, stuff like that. So, I mean, yeah, it is really important. I would say this: mobility is really important, especially if you have pain.
All right. Question number 3: what are common lies do y'all hear about in the fitness space? So I like to bring up social media. The first thing is just do this. This will fix this, or this will help that. Like, we understand complexities, and then again, with that same concept, there's only one way to bench press. You got to bench press like this. There's multiple ways to the bench press. Anatomy plays a role. Height plays a role. The way your muscles are play a role, right? If I have big muscles, well, now my arms can't do certain angles. It just is what it is. I mean, look how strong as fuck is Austin. And we just talking about, I just don't have the shoulder mobility to do it. And then I'm over here I could do anything.
Right. And so it's just different. And even again, in that case too, it was like for the yoke, we had to adjust it, for each one of us because we're just different.
I was just God.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I think hearing stuff like that is kind of ridiculous. Anything that's going to discount any other aspect of it, I feel like is the stuff that you should stay away from.
Most, or when you hear nutrition people saying, only eat this, only eat that.
Yeah.
Like it's more complex and nuanced. Everything you'll learn in fitness is based on individuality. And what does that individual need at the end of the day? And there's going to be commonalities, right?
Ooh, that's good. Yeah.
But there's a lot of individualities within that commonality. All right. Question number 4. What if I'm not ready to get rid of my social life? Can I still make my weight loss goals and my fitness goals?
Yeah. You have to adjust the goal.
Yeah.
Depending on what it is.
Yeah.
If your goal is to lose or, get to 10% body fat or something like that, then I would say no, but if you adjust that and you're like, well, maybe I'll be happy at 15 or 20.
Or maybe you do your social life, but you're not out there drinking. Maybe you're drinking water while everybody's having, but you're still out. But understand your sleep is going to be affected.
Yeah.
So it's going to take a little longer to reach that goal.
You would just have to change those expectations at the end of the day. Because I mean, that's kind of like what I would say you and I do. You know what I mean? We have fitness goals. We have, things that we want to do. You got a 405 bench press or what? I mean, that's our bench press. You could do that. Yeah. That's what you got to do. Yeah.
I think the most I've done is like 350.
Deadlift,
never
or we want to cut or we want to do whatever. But these are all things that just need to be adjusted based on where we're at currently in life.
Yeah. All right, guys. If you like what we're doing, we're on Apple, Spotify. You can rate, review us. Also, check us out on YouTube. Leave a comment down below. Subscribe. Hit the like button. Then, if you're looking for our website, it's Strength Solutions Podcast. We have free blogs, free guides, and programs for purchase. Email. Check us out at strengthsolutionspodcast.com@gmail.com. Then, social media, Strength Solutions Podcast on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. I'm Strength Solutions Edwin.
I'm Strength Solutions
Until
Nathaniel.
next time, guys. What? Tickle, tickle.